So as I'm pulling this shower apart, it's a reminder to me why I choose the products I choose. I'm a foam board guy. I like the Hydroban half inch, for walls you use half inch Hydroban boards made by Latacrete, and it has a vapor proof barrier on both sides of the board. And so that keeps moisture from being able to travel through the substrate and, make contact with the walls or the insulation or anything. These guys used Durock. The shower was built back in the 90s. They put plastic on the walls, and that actually has, almost the opposite effect, whereas it actually draws moisture through the wall to the plastic. And so that's why you see the efflorescence. And if you actually watched one of my earlier shorts, then you would have seen that there was a huge calcium deposit down there. It was like a big rock from all of the efflorescence that had built up. For whatever reason, that area, it must have just been really wicking it through. But when you do a shower, especially a steam shower, and you're not using a product with a vapor proof barrier on it, then you need to actually use 30-pound felt paper against the studs, and that acts as, we call it a vapor retarder, and that helps keep the vapor from, essentially coming through. Basically, it keeps the vapor from being drawn through, I should say. And it's a lot of work to actually cover all the walls with the tar paper and spline the corners. It adds at least 3 or 4 hours to your project. And then you have to put your backer board on, and in this case they would have used the Durock, so they'd put the Durock on, and then if they had did it right, which they didn't, they would have taped all the seams, filled them with thin set, and then they should have rolled, in my opinion, the entire wall, everything out with some sort of liquid waterproofing to just basically help keep that water where you want it, which is on the inside of the shower. They didn't do any of that. So the nice thing with the Hydroban board is you don't have to do any of that. Same thing with Schluter, the Dietra, the Curdy board rather. You don't have to do that. You can just put the board to the studs. You put a little bit of the sealant that, whatever manufacturer you're working with provides. So Schluter, Curdy Fix, Hydroban sealant. You basically put that into the joints. I like to embed a little bit of tape into it. You're ready for tile. If you're doing a steam shower, you would use, the Curdy band if it's Schluter, or the Hydroban seam tape, I think is what they call it. If you're using Hydroban, you put that over your seams, and now you're ready for tile in a steam shower. So it simplifies it a lot. And one thing a lot of guys do is they tend to skip steps, and so when you're trying to figure out who you should hire and you're comparing prices, you really got to ask yourself, is whoever I'm hiring, using a system like a Schluter or Hydroban system, or are they doing something